Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instructions of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're also paying our humble obeisance to Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada for providing us this nice commentary and translation of Bhagavatam. And we're also praying to Srimati Radharani, following the instructions of Om Vishnupad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who told us that unless we can understand Srimati Radharani through our study of Bhagavatam, then our study has been for waste if we cannot understand her or know something about her. So, in this way, we are praying to Srimati Radharani. Yadi seva vanchitasya ma yasya kripaya vayam labema sarvam prapnuma prayojanam damni Shri Bhagavat Pade Krishna sambandhi sarvam cha Yadi na janimahe tutam ashtadashasu sahasreshu shlokanam bhagavat oktishu radharanimna vindamha tada nishphalam bhagavat adhyayanam radhikaya kripam vina vyartasyat sarva parishrama. If we are cheated out of serving that personality whose mercy awards us everything we need, including residence in the Lord's holy Dham, and all things connected to Krishna, and if we cannot understand or discover Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam, then our study of Srimad Bhagavatam has been pointless. Without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, all our efforts are in vain. So we are continuing from chapter 27, Attack by Caṇḍavega on the city of King Purañjana, the character of Kālakanyā. Text 1. Narada uvacha itam Purañjanam sadvyag vashamaniya vibramai Purañjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim. The great sage Narada continued, "My dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King Purañjana gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him." Purport. After hunting in the forest, King Purañjana returned home, and after refreshing himself by taking a bath and eating nice food, he searched for his wife. When he saw her lying down on the ground without a bed, as if neglected and devoid of any proper dress, he became very much aggrieved. He then became attracted to her and began to enjoy her company. A living entity is similarly engaged in the material world in sinful activities. These sinful activities may be compared to King Purañjana's hunting in the forest. A sinful life can be counteracted by various processes of religion such as yajna, vrat, and dhan. That is why the performance of sacrifices, the taking of a vow for some religious ritual, and the giving of charity. In this way, one may become free from the reactions of sinful life, and at the same time awaken his original Krishna consciousness. By coming home, taking his bath, eating nice food stuff, getting refreshed, and searching out his wife, King Purañjana came to his good consciousness in his family life. In other words, a systematic family life, as enjoined in the Vedas, is better than an irresponsible sinful life. If a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, that is very nice. However, if a husband becomes too much attracted by his wife and forgets his duty in life, the implications of materialistic life will again resume. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore recommended anashas anakshaktasya vishayan in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Without being attached by sex, the husband and wife may live together for the advancement of spiritual life. The husband should engage in devotional service, and the wife should be faithful and religious according to Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. However, if the husband becomes too much attracted to the wife due to sex, the position becomes very dangerous. Women in general are very much sexually inclined. Indeed, it is said that a woman's sex desire is 9 times stronger than a man's. It is therefore a man's duty to keep a woman under his control by satisfying her, giving her ornaments, nice food and clothes, and engaging her in religious activities. Of course, a woman should have a few children and in this way not be disturbing to the man. Unfortunately, if the man becomes attracted to the woman simply for sex enjoyment, then family life becomes abominable. The great politician Chanakya Pandit is said, Bharya Rupavati Shatru. A beautiful wife is an enemy. Of course, every woman in the eyes of her husband is very beautiful. Others may see her not as very beautiful, but the husband, being very much attracted to her, sees her always as very beautiful. If the husband sees the wife as very beautiful, it is to be assumed that he is too much attracted to her. This attraction is the attraction for sex. The whole world is captivated by the 2 modes of material nature, Rajagun and Tamagun, passion and ignorance. Generally, women are very much passionate. Therefore, somehow or other, a man should not be under the control of their passion and ignorance. By performing bhakti yoga or devotional service, a man can be raised to the platform of goodness. If a husband situated in the mode of goodness can control his wife who is in passion and ignorance, the woman is benefited. Forgetting her natural inclination for passion and ignorance, the woman becomes obedient and faithful to her husband, who is situated in goodness. Such a life becomes very welcome. The intelligence of the man and woman may then work very nicely together, and they can make a progressive march towards spiritual realization. Otherwise, a husband coming under the control of the wife sacrifices his quality of goodness and becomes subservient to the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this way, the whole situation becomes polluted. The conclusion is that a household life is better than a sinful life devoid of responsibility. But if in the household life the husband becomes subordinate to the wife, involvement in materialistic life becomes prominent again. In this way, a man's material bondage becomes enhanced. Because of this, according to the Vedic system, after a certain age, a man is recommended to abandon his family life for the stages of Anaprastha and Sannyas. Text 2. Sarajamahishim Rajan Sushnatam Ruchir Ananam Kritasvashtyayanam Triptam Abhyayandad Upagatam. The queen took her bath and dressed herself nicely with all auspicious garments and ornaments. After taking food and becoming completely satisfied, she returned to the king. Upon seeing her beautifully decorated, attractive face, the king welcomed her with all devotion. Purport. A woman is generally accustomed to dress herself nicely with fine garments and decorative ornaments. She may even sometimes wear flowers in her hair. Women especially dress themselves up in the evening because the husband comes home in the evening after working all day. It is the duty of the wife to dress herself up very nicely so that when her husband returns home, he becomes attracted by her dress and cleanliness and thus becomes satisfied. In other words, the wife is the inspiration of all good intelligence. Upon seeing one's wife dressed nicely, one can think very soberly about family business. When a person is too anxious about family affairs, he cannot discharge his family duties nicely. A wife is therefore supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. Text 3. Tayo paguda parirabdha kandaro raho numantrar aprakrishta chetana nakala ramho bubudhe duratyayam Diva nisheti pramadha parigraha. Queen Purañjana embracing the king, and the king also responded by embracing her shoulders. In this way, in a solitary place, they enjoyed joking words. Thus King Purañjana became very much captivated by his beautiful wife and deviated from his good sense. He forgot that the passing of days and nights meant that his span of life was being reduced without profit. Purport. The word pramada in this verse is very significant. A beautiful wife is certainly enlivening to her husband, but at the same time is the cause of degradation. The word pramada means enlivening as well as maddening. Generally, a householder does not take the passing of days and nights very seriously. A person in ignorance takes it as the usual course that days come, and after the days the nights come. This is the law of material nature. But a man in ignorance does not know that when the sun rises early in the morning, it begins to take away the balance of his life. Thus, day after day, the span of one's life is reduced, and forgetting the duty of human life, the foolish man simply remains in the company of his wife and enjoys her in a secluded place. Such a condition is called apakrishta chaitana, or degraded consciousness. Human consciousness should be used for elevation to Krishna consciousness. But when a person is too much attracted to his wife and family affairs, he does not take Krishna consciousness very seriously. He thus becomes degraded, not knowing that he cannot buy back even a second of his life in return for millions of dollars. The greatest loss in life is passing time without understanding Krishna. Every moment of our lives should be utilized properly, and the proper use of life is to increase devotional service to the Lord. Without devotional service to the Lord, the activities of life become simply a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Simply becoming dutiful, we do not make any profit in life, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmas fanushtita pumsam vishvakshena katosuya. Notpada yed yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. If after performing one's occupational duty very perfectly, one does not make progress in Krishna consciousness, it should be understood that he has simply wasted his time in valueless labor. Text 4. Sayana unadhamado mahamana maharha talpe mahishi bujo padi tam eva viro manute param yatas tamo bidbhuto na nijam param chayat. In this way, increasingly overwhelmed by illusion, King Purañjana, although advanced in consciousness, remained always lying down with his head on the pillow of his wife's arms. In this way, he considered a woman to be his ultimate life and soul. Becoming thus overwhelmed by the mode of ignorance, he cannot understand the meaning of self-realization, whether regarding his own self or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Human life is meant for self-realization. First of all, as one has to realize his own self, which is described in this verse as nijam, then he has to understand or realize the Supersoul, or Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, when one becomes too much materially attached, he takes a woman to be everything. This is the basic principle of material attachment. In such a condition, one cannot realize his own self or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it is therefore said, Mahat sevam dvaram ahor, vimuktes tamo dvaram, yoshitam sangi sangam. If one associates with Mahatmas or devotees, his path of liberation is opened. But if one becomes too much attached to women or to persons who are also attached to women, that is, attached to women directly or indirectly, he opens the Tamodvaram, the door to the darkest region of hellish life. King Purañjana was a great soul, highly intellectual and possessed advance of consciousness, but due to his being too much addicted to women, his whole consciousness was covered. In the modern age, the consciousness of people is too much covered by wine, women, and flesh. Consequently, people are completely unable to make any progress in self-realization. The first step of self-realization is to know oneself as spirit soul apart from the body. In the second stage of self-realization, one comes to know that every soul, every individual living entity, is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Mamhayavamso jivha loke, jivha bhuta sanatana, mana shastani indriyani, prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, in this present civilization, both men and women are allowed to be attracted to one another from the very beginning of life, and because of this, they are completely unable to come to the platform of self-realization. They do not know that without self-realization, they suffer the great loss in human form of life. Thinking of a woman always within one's heart is tantamount to lying down with a woman on a valuable bedstead. The heart is the bedstead, and it is the most valuable bedstead. When a man thinks of women and money, he lies down and rests on the arms of his beloved woman or wife. In this way, he overindulges in sex life and thus becomes unfit for self-realization. Text 5. Tayavam ramamhanasya kama kasmala chetasa shanhardam eva rajandra vyati krantam navamvaya. My dear King Prachinabarhisat, in this way King Purañjana, with his heart full of lust and sinful reactions, began to enjoy sex with his wife, and in this way his new life and youth expired in half a moment. Purport. Srila Govinda Das Thakur has sung, E Dana Yovana Putra Parijana, Ite Ke Ache Paratitire, Kamala Dhala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajahum Hari Pada Nitire. Yes. In this verse, Srila Govinda Das actually says that there is no bliss in the enjoyment of youthful life. In youth, a person becomes very lusty to enjoy all kinds of sense objects. The sense objects are form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. The modern scientific method or advancement of scientific civilization encourages the enjoyment of these 5 senses. The younger generation is very pleased to see a beautiful form, hear radio messages of material news, and sense gratificatory songs, to smell nice scents and nice flowers, and to touch the soft body or breasts of a young woman and gradually touch the sex organs. All of this is also very pleasing to the animals. Therefore, in human society, there are restrictions in the enjoyment of the 5 sense objects. If one does not follow, he becomes exactly like an animal. Thus, in this verse, it is specifically stated, Kama Kasmala Chetasa. The consciousness of King Purañjana was polluted by lusty desires and sinful activities. In the previous verse, it is stated that Purañjana, although advanced in consciousness, lay down on a very soft bed with his wife. This indicates that he indulged too much in sex. The words Navamvaya are also significant in this verse. They indicate the period of youth from age 16 to 30. These 13 or 15 years of life from 13 or 15 years of life are years in which one can very strongly enjoy the senses. When one comes to this age, he thinks that life will go on and that he will simply continue enjoying his senses. But, quote, time and tide wait for no man, unquote. The span of youth expires very quickly. One who wastes his life simply by committing sinful activities in youth immediately becomes disappointed and disillusioned when the brief period of youth is over. The material enjoyments of youth are especially pleasing to a person who has no spiritual training. If one is trained only according to the bodily conception of life, he simply leads a disappointed life because bodily sense enjoyment finishes within 40 years or so. After 40 years, one simply leads a disillusioned life because he has no spiritual knowledge. For such a person, the expiration of youth occurs in half a moment. Thus, King Purañjana's pleasure, which he took in lying down with his wife, expired very quickly. Kama kasmala chetasa. It also indicates that unrestricted sense enjoyment is not allowed in the human form of life by the laws of nature. If one enjoys his senses unrestrictedly, he leads a sinful life. The animals do not violate the laws of nature. For example, the sex impulse in animals is very strong during certain months of the year. The lion is very powerful. He is a flesh eater and is very strong, but he enjoys sex only once in a year. Similarly, according to religious injunctions, a man is restricted to enjoying sex only once in a month after the menstrual period of the wife, and if the wife is pregnant, he is not allowed sex life at all. That is the law for human beings. A man is allowed to keep more than one wife because he cannot enjoy sex when the wife is pregnant. If he wants to enjoy sex at such a time, he may go to another wife who is not pregnant. These are the laws mentioned in the Manu Samhita and other scriptures. These laws and scriptures are meant for human beings. As such, if one violates these laws, he becomes sinful. The conclusion is that unrestricted sense enjoyment means sinful activities. Illicit sex is sex that violates the laws given in the scriptures. When one violates the laws of the scriptures or the Vedas, he commits sinful activities. One who is engaged in sinful activities cannot change his consciousness. Our real function is to change our consciousness from Kasmala, sinful consciousness, to Krishna, the Supreme Pure. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. Krishna is the Supreme Pure. And if we change our consciousness from material enjoyment to Krishna, we become purified. This is the process recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the process of Chaito Dharpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. Text 6. Tasyam ajanayat putram Purañjanyam Purañjana Satyan ekadasa virad Ayusodham atat yagat. The great sage Narada then addressed King Prachinabarhisat, a one whose lifespan is great, or virat. In this way, King Purañjana begot 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife Purañjani. However, in this business, he passed away half his lifespan. Purport. In this verse, there are several significant words, the first of which is Ekadasa Satani. Purañjana had begotten 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife, and thus passed away half his life. Actually, every man follows a similar process. If one lives for 100 years at the most, in his family life, he simply begets children up to the age of 50. Unfortunately, at the present moment, people do not live even 100 years. Nonetheless, they beget children up to the age of 60. Another point is that formerly people used to beget 100 or 200 sons and daughters, as will be evident from the next verse. King Purañjana did not only begot 1,100 sons, but also 110 daughters. At the present moment, no one can produce such huge quantities of children. Instead, mankind is very busy checking the increase of population by contraceptive methods. We do not find in Vedic literatures that they ever used contraceptive methods, although they were begetting hundreds of children. Checking population by contraceptive methods is another sinful activity, but in this age of Kali, people have become so sinful that they do not care for the resultant reactions of their sinful lives. King Purañjana lay down with his wife Purañjani and begot a large number of children, and there is no mention in these verses that he used contraceptive methods. According to the Vedic scriptures, the contraceptive method should be restrained in sex life. It is not that one should indulge in unrestricted sex life and avoid children by using some method to check pregnancy. If a man is in good consciousness, he consults with his religious wife, and as a result of this consultation with intelligence, one advances in his ability to estimate the value of life. In other words, if one is fortunate enough to have a good and conscientious wife, he can decide by mutual consultation that human life is meant for advancing in Krishna consciousness and not for begetting a large number of children. Children are called parinama, or byproducts, and when one consults his good intelligence, he can see that his byproducts should be the expansion of his Krishna consciousness. And thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from text 7 on Monday. Okay. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda ki jai. Jai Navadvip Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju ki jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham ki jai. Sham Kund Radha Kund ki jai. Tosa Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi ki jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Jai Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari 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 Bo. Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi ki jai.
जय गुरुदेव। श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय।
Dhanyavad Siddhi.